I've split 8.1 in half, so this is going to be 8.1a. So this one just wants us to fill out the function for h of x. And a little bit about notation. The name of this equation is h. And then h parenthesis x just means that the variable that h is written in is x. So if I write out h of x, this is the function's name, this is the variable that it's written in. And at any point, if you want to graph this function, you can replace its name with y. So if I had y equals 2x minus 4, then I could graph this. It starts at -4 and it has a slope of 2. That's what it would look like. And in function notation, well, I guess this one doesn't use that, but so x equals -4, what is h of x? So if I had h of -4, all that means is rewrite the h function, and everywhere you see an x, plug in -4. So if I put -4 in there, 2 times -4 is -8, minus 4 is -12. And we just do that with all of those values in the table. Christine earns $41 per week working part-time at a bookstore. She makes $1 more for each book that she sells. The amount A in dollars that Christine earns in a week is A of B equals 41 plus B. So again, the function's name is A, the variable it's written in is B, and what is her income if she sells 22 books? So A of 22 is going to be 41, and where the B used to be, I'm going to replace it with 22. So that is 63. Okay. Here we have two different functions. One is linear, one is a cubic. What is f of -3? So I'm going to plug in -3 right there. 2 times -3 is -6. Minus 1 is -7. And g of -4, -4 cubed is 64, -64. Times 2 is -128. So -128 plus 2 would be -126. So here we have a function, and calls costs, or the phone card is $35. Calls cost 8 cents per minute. And how much money is going to be on the card after 20 minutes of calls? So 35 minus 0.08 times 20. So 35 minus 0.08 times 20, $33.40. All right. So we need to talk a little bit more about functions. So every function is simply a rule that assigns elements of a domain into elements of a range. And so if I were to fill this left side with people, so Canyon, where do you live? Cleveland? So let's say that my domain is people and my range is cities. So Canyon lives in Cleveland. Tice? And I know Gordon also lives in Castledale. Tristan? Okay. Jesse? And Isabel? Oh, good. Was hoping that would happen. Alyssa? Okay. So this is a function. The function is simply a rule that assigns elements of a domain into elements of a range. And not every situation is a function. So if I were to just put a whole bunch of stuff on the left side and a whole bunch of stuff on the right side and start drawing lines, it may or may not be a function. And in order to be a function, no person can live in two cities. Okay? That's the rule of being a function. No person can live in two cities, which means nobody on the left side in the domain can be linked to two places in the range. So let's say that we had another person. His name was Bob. And let's say that Bob lived in Castledale half the time and lived in Cleveland half the time. So I would connect Bob to Castledale and to Cleveland. This would stop being a function. Okay, in a function, no person lives in two cities. Now, that doesn't mean that that can't happen. There might be a person that lives in multiple cities. But if that's the case, then this situation is not a function. So if I called this function h, if I called this situation h, if Bob lives in two cities, h is not a function. So let's go back to this. Can two people live in the same city? Yes, that's okay. But in order to be a function, no person lives in two cities. And then usually our domain is called X and our range is called Y, but it doesn't have to be that way. And it's totally all right if two people live in the same city. So we have 3 people live in Castledale, 2 people that live in Cleveland. This is still a function. We go back to this. So here is my function. I have people 3, 0, 3, and -4. So 3, 0, 3 is already listed, and -4. And then I have cities, -2, -4, 1, and 5. -2, -4, 1, and 5. So 3 is linked to -2. 0 is linked to -4. 3 is linked to -1. And -4 is linked to 5. Is this a function? No, why not? Person 3 is living in two cities. So if it's not a function, we call it a relation. Okay? So in this relation, what is the domain? Well, anytime our answer involves a list of numbers, thank you, then we use those funny little parentheses. So the domain is going to be funny little parenthesis 3, 0, and -4. So 3, 0, -4. And the range, funny little parentheses, -2, -4, 1, and 5. Okay? Okay. So I need to represent this situation on the number line. So 1 gets a closed circle because there's an equal to, and 3 gets an open circle, and X is everything in between. Do you guys remember this? Okay. Now we want to represent this in interval notation. So this is called inequality notation. And that's sort of a middle school thing. We don't really do that anymore. So instead, we're going to use brackets and parentheses. So a bracket means equal to, and a parenthesis means not equal to. And we always do this, low, comma, high. And then this can either be a bracket or a parenthesis, and this one can be a bracket or a parenthesis. So in this case, how do I represent everything 1 and bigger all the way up to almost 3? Well, the low number is a 1. The high number is a 3. The low number is equal to, so it gets a bracket. And the high number is an open circle, not equal to, so it gets a parenthesis. Okay? Let's do another one of these. All right, we look here. -3 is not equal to, so it gets an open circle. 3 is equal to, so it gets a closed circle. And in interval notation, it's going to be open circle, so a parenthesis, -3, comma, 3 is a closed circle, like that. Okay, do you want to see another one of those? Can do. All right, -3 gets a closed circle, 6 gets an open circle, everything in between. So that would be bracket, -3, comma, 6 with the parentheses. So equal to is a closed circle. Not equal to is an open circle. Okay. So for this formula, the total cost, so the total cost is going to be $5,500 plus $225 per ton of sugar. So if the total cost is $11,125, how many tons is the company transporting? So is this going to be the N value, or is it going to be the C of N value? It's the C of N, so we plug this in here. So 11125 is equal to 5,500 plus 225N. So if I need to find out how many tons there are, we'll subtract 5,500. So 11,125 minus 5,500. That's going to be, oops. Someday I'll get it right. 5,625 is equal to that. So now we divide by 222. 225. Thank you. So divided by 225 is 25. So if this is the total cost, then that's how many tons the company is transporting. And what if we are moving 11 tons? We just plug that in here. So 5,500 plus 225 times 11 is 7,975. That's it for today. Get to work.